There's my cue. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Main Street Board of Directors September 14th meeting. I want to go ahead and call the meeting to order, and Meredith, we have roll call. All done there. All right. In front of you, you have an agenda, and at this time, if anybody would like to add something to the agenda, this would be the time to do it. Town and gown will be on the committee reports. Let's add it to.
Do it under organization.
Organization after events. Yeah. Any other additions?
I have a couple things, but I'll just do it during my report.
During the report?
Yeah.
All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve to accept the agenda as presented, adding town and gown under organization.
So moved.
There's been a motion, there's support. Any further discussion? It was quick. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. All those opposed the same. All right, we have an agenda. Also, you were given in your packets, the DDA meeting, Main Street Board of Directors meeting, August 10th, 2022. Any additions, corrections, deletions to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
Support.
There's been a motion and support. Any further discussion? Dave. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed the same. The record reflect the minutes are accepted with the unanimous vote. We will move into the Main Street Directors Report. Jay.
So quite a few things to inform you about. We were included in a pilot program in conjunction with Northern Initiatives in the MEDC called Initiate. It's Initiate Small Business. I'll be going to a series of 5 meetings. They have a great website with resources that it looks like we'll be able to share with all of our local businesses, everything from marketing to finance, startup businesses, to selling your business. A lot of great resources in there, and no cost for us to do that, but we are part of a pilot program that they're offering. Coming up in next week's City Commission meeting, there'll be discussion of street closure policies, as well as parades, parking lot closures. I think that's it. Parades, street closures, downtown event closures, and parades. Yes. And there's been recommendations, and they'll be discussing that in the pre-meeting. There will be some action potentially that we'll have to take after that meeting, and we'll get into that further after the commission makes their decision. Also, First Fridays, speaking with Michelle, she would like us to start having conversations about creating a policy committee and assisting with First Fridays. There's been a number of events, a number of situations that have happened this year during the events that would be beneficial for the operation of First Fridays if we created a policy committee, creating some policies as far as rules and regulations. Because right now, if somebody behaves in a way that's not consistent with what we feel should be downtown, there's no real recourse for us. Michelle's like, don't do that. And the response is, who are you to tell me? And it's difficult for her. So for us to support her, I think that's a good conversation for us to start. And we're going to want to have those policies in effect before the beginning of the year, so we can really help the formation and direction of First Fridays. Committee assignments, a few of you have responded. Those of you that haven't, you'll be getting assigned to a committee, assuming that was on the initial response that you had given us. And we will be sending those out so we can start having those conversations and working with the strategic plan that we came up with. Last thing on the agenda, board member posting. We'll be posting within probably next week for Emily's position. There's a form on the city website that's the application, is my understanding, that's set by resolution, so we can't change that, but we do have an informational sheet that we can change and update and really talk about the commitment and what's required to be a board member. Let's see. Some other notes that aren't on there. October 3rd and 4th, I will be going to the Michigan Main Street Conference in Lansing. One of the components of that is a storytelling training that'll happen on the second day. So that will provide me with some great information and help us as we continue to grow and tell our story. Christmas trees aren't on there, but just a heads up, Christmas trees for the Riverwalk go on sale September 21st. And I think they're 65. Is that right, Michelle? 60, sorry, $60 for a Christmas tree this year for the Riverwalk. So they go on sale September 21st. And lastly, and I don't believe how I missed this one, shame on me. I want to thank everyone that helped us with the Welcome Back Bash. It was, a great success in the short time that we had to pull it off. We had an estimated over 500 students that came downtown. I personally want to thank Jeff Rising, his family and staff that helped us. Drake Lally, this guy right here, he was there too, helping out. And to be honest, I couldn't have done it without Michelle and all of her help and support. And the guys from DPW, Matt and Brett and their staff were tremendous in helping us pull that event off. So I don't think I missed anybody. If I did, I apologize. But again, thanks everyone for the help. And I think it was successful, and hopefully we can continue to assist in the future.
Jeff, was anybody able to stay on the mechanical bulldog? Line 90 seconds.
Wow.
Did you show them how it was done, or did they have to figure it out?
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. Well, I apologize. You might have brought a few people. Yes, I apologize.
had to put a little work.
I apologize. See, I told you I forget
It's an open meeting. So yeah, as we move forward, and we're going to talk about this in board action, is the charge of a board member as a DDA or Main Street board member. Hands-on, as we talked about over and over again since we started this. This is really an active board, not a board that just oversees things. As Jay moves in, then we talk about policy downtown. We are the authority, I think, to set policy and have the city commission adopt that policy. We've had some incidents, as he said, that were just somewhat atrocious, actually, that should have happened and had removals. But we need to have a distinct policy that we can point towards and that Michelle can point towards and says, yeah, this is the authority of the DDA that allows me to tell you, you have to leave, or whatever the case may be. Committee assignments, if you didn't choose one, as Jay said, it'll be voluntold to you. But if you want one and you really do it, we still have a little bit of time right after this meeting. Maybe you can tell them what committee you'd like to be on. And again, the new board member posting, I asked Jay to not just say, hey, go to the city website and pick up that vanilla form that we all have filled out at one point in our time. And really give the public a knowledge of what that board member needs to be and what we're looking for. So he's going to tailor it a little bit as when you enter the website, what you're going to see. So we'll get that posted soon. So thank you, Jay. Any questions for Jay? Excellent. Finance report, Brad.
So I distributed a copy to everybody, also sent it via email in case anybody isn't here. I don't really have anything to report whatsoever. There's been nothing that has jumped out at me as being out of the ordinary. Everything is nice and itemized on page 2 and 3 for all of our special projects. And so we're going to be able to track things much easier this year and see how much we're spending on everything. But as of right now, everything looks good and there's nothing I really have to report beyond the information that you see.
Excellent. So as we move forward and go into the next budget season, as we've mentioned, this item is itemizing things and sitting down with Nathan and everything. We're really getting into what's this event and how much did it cost and how much revenue did we generate, and everything will be itemized and that'll be a lot easier for us to understand. So any questions, Brad? If not, I entertain a motion to. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Delicious this weekend, I see $10,000. How does that get spent again in terms of specifics?
Yeah, so that's mostly for the band bookings and the stage and any promo banners and any expenses associated with that. Rentals of some chairs and tables and et cetera. Obviously, we haven't paid any of those bills yet, which is why that's currently at a zero balance. We also have commitments or even checks in hand from, that is going to cover the entire expense. So,
And then some.
and then some. So we're also going to be putting out a big clear donation box seated by everybody on the board here with a few bucks, right?
Few bucks.
And then hopefully we'll be able to collect some more money on top of things. Yep.
Maybe we can buy a 6-foot fence. All right. Other questions? Mayor, how'd you get shut up, moved all the way down there? Jay just keeps pushing you to the edge.
I know, that's exactly who it is. He's the culprit.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the finance report as presented. There's been a motion and support. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. All right, thank you. Greg's not here, so wait, where is there? Oh, there he is. He's up there. Hi, Greg. Got anything from the city?
Hey, good morning. So, our world continues to be preoccupied by the Riverview terrorist crisis, of course. In fact, I'll be leaving here in 20 minutes to join the Emergency Operations Center again. We meet at this point still daily, every morning, trying to coordinate our response. We're trying to stabilize operations of the Adrian Inn, which has been difficult. It's not in great shape. Lots of things breaking, needing to be addressed. We're trying to get as many of the displaced residents in there as it can accommodate. Not every room can accommodate every resident because there's no elevator in that hotel. So second floor rooms are not necessarily appropriate for everybody. The day that all the residents who are currently in hotels have to be out of any hotel other than the Adrian Inn is tomorrow. And there's still probably approaching 30 residents that are not permanently placed that are in other hotels other than the Adrian Inn. They will not all fit in the Adrian Inn. So some percentage of those folks, unfortunately, are going to be homeless tomorrow. They have had other opportunities that they've declined outside of town. And so we'll try to address that in the best way that we can. But that continues to occupy a great deal of city time and resources right now. So that's kind of the story from me at the moment. I guess I'm happy to answer any questions on that matter or any other matter, though, that you might have.
Any questions for Greg?
Can you address the light poles? Thank you.
Yeah, they are in, there's demonstration poles up on South Main, if you a pole and a bollard. We're not completely happy with the way that the pole was installed. If you looked at it, there's an adapter that Johnson Controls built to cause the pole to attach to the existing base. We're in discussions with them about whether or not it was within their scope to replace the bases. The problem is that the bolts that are anchored in the existing base don't fit the spots that exist in the new poles. So they may or may not have that adapter on them as they all get installed, but I expect they'll be coming down and being replaced, assuming that issue gets resolved to our satisfaction, probably right after our Delicious. When they initially go up, they will not have the speakers or the digital banners or the banner holders that are actually an add-on that we're going to do ourselves later on, other than the ones that have digital banners. So you should see some activity on that very soon. You might have seen that the existing poles that are being retained were painted out on West Maumee. So that's all part and parcel of the project getting underway.
If you have seen them, not only do they have the tall lamppost, but they have the waist high sort of post as well. And they emit a great amount of light, LED light. So very nice. I can see the adapter at the bottom. You guys can over and look at it. They're going to have to do some makeshift stuff, so we'll get that working on. So I appreciate that, Greg.
I should add that as designed by JCI, those adapters are supposed to still have a sleeve that goes around them. You won't see the bolts and such, even if we end up allowing them to use those.
Excellent. Other questions for Greg? Greg, thank you for your report.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we get to board action. I'm gonna have to hand this over to Jay.
So the first thing on board action is purchasing and signature authority. It's recommendation of the executive director of the Main Street DDA board, that the Main Street DDA board approve the purchasing and signature authority. So you see this is, go ahead.
Oh,
Continue.
one
Good.
motion.
Yeah, we'll do one at a time, just so everybody has it. So you got, everybody got the purchasing and signature authority. You will need a motion. So
Right. So we'll start with the motion, except then we'll go into discussion. So is there a motion to accept purchasing policy? There's motion, there's support. Now we'll go into discussion. As you can see in this policy, we're looking at the executive director may be able to purchase goods and services of value up to $5,000 as long as it's a budgeted line item. We talked about this so he could be nimble between different meetings. In his reviews annually, well, that's where we discuss whether or not purchases were appropriate. I think they all will be. And Jay and I meet weekly, if not every 3 days, every 2 days. If there's a purchase that has to go between 5,000 and 10,000, around 3 quotes, and then of course, the majority of the board votes. So as we get up to that, this is just a purchasing policy you see quite often at a city. I think Greg's is 10,000. At the DDA, we're at 5 before we bring it. And again, if he ever has to breach the budget, he has to come back to the board for a vote for a budget amendment. So you can't go outside of whatever we have allocated to those. Questions?
Just in terms of the transparency of the process there, the limit is $5,000, but we're not limiting how many of those up to $5,000 purchases there could be. Is there the expectation that we'd be receiving reports each meeting if there were significant purchases made discretionary, on a discretionary basis there?
Yeah, so in the finance report, ideally, we would see those purchases. Brad would disclose them and say, this is what Jay did.
Yeah.
And what he expended, his expenditures for the month.
Okay, so that'd be a verbal report rather than just being allocated to those individual line items then.
Right, so if you, and this right here where he had.
They,
zero
yeah, they will be,
purchases.
they will be allocated to those line items, so they should be visible on the report in terms of what he's spent. Yeah.
Other questions?
And just to answer that a little bit better, there are very few budget line items that we have that have over $5,000 in it. So it would, we have a pretty small budget comparatively, so it would be very difficult to have multiple purchases over 5,000.
All right,
We're assuming it would require one signature.
yeah, that's what we're assuming here. So the board wants it another way. All right, there's been a motion and there has been support. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. We move on. All right, employee expense policy. Is that the same?
Yep, putting up different one.
Oh, different one. Yeah.
It's recommendation of the executive director that Main Street DDA board approve the employee expense policy.
All right, so here in the expenses, we have credit cards, travel advances and reimbursements, personal mileage, lodging, meals, taxi and tips, and parking tolls and car rentals. As he goes out through training, Michigan Main Street, we looked at some rates that they accept sometimes at the state level where they sort of allocate and say, okay, you can have $95 a night for a hotel room, and that's not going to be enough kind of thing. So we need to allow a little bit of discretion. If he goes to Lansing, they stay at the Marriott, is that right?
Yeah.
And they get a group bulk rate, so we're not getting, he's not going and living at, in the penthouse upstairs or anything, living in the large. So in any event, this is, again, we are starting to build, and Jay is starting to build a policy manual. It's outside of the bylaws. It's how we handle this. If he's not here, we have something to look toward. and adopt into our policy record. So at the end, ideally, we'll have a policy manual that's about that thick that addresses all these issues. Any questions on the employee expense policy?
So you're incorporating in an employee expense policy, a credit card authority allowing him to indicate how much an employee would be allowed to spend. You're gonna, my experience is you give an employee a credit card, and that employee is advised approximately how much money they're going to be allowed to use on that credit card when they're outside office doing business activity.
Yes. So,
And you want to incorporate that in some kind of handbook long-term.
Yep, we're creating a whole policy manual, so for several things. Because there wasn't anything in place, we're just starting to piecemeal it as we find, opportunities that are coming up, and that's really what we're addressing. Otherwise, it would be extremely overburdening for the board, just like you saw the handbook that came in, so.
Right now, for discretion, you send somebody out, or you're the person going out right now.
Right.
And so you're gonna have a credit card, you're going to use it in your good judgment. And if that's what we're gonna take a vote on, I trust that you're gonna have a credit card and you're gonna make a determination as to the appropriate amount. See what you do with it. And so I would vote to give you the discretion to do that in accordance with good judgment. And we'll see what happens when we put a max on it. Look back at 12
We are abiding by the state. We are abiding by the state recommended per diems
Exactly.
and the state, I'm sorry, federal mileage. So all those are in this policy.
Yeah.
So there's, we're basically like, and then the hotels, it says right here in lodging, it has to be pre-approved by a supervisor, which would effectively be
me.
him. So it basically, the numbers are all set. He can't get extravagant.
And I did it for both your protection and my protection, right? So everybody understands where we are. So.
Yeah, and I can just,
Yeah.
just for comfort, if Jay's buying anything, he's talking to me about it. And ideally in the structure of
be
Main
scared.
Street, yeah, that's okay.
Now we're back.
If I'm not here someday, if I'm not chairman one day. Preston.
Yeah, I'm looking at the expense policy. I think it is a really good framework. Maybe some hyperlinks to those reference points, just for ease of whoever the employee is, to know what the most recent rates are. And I'm also wondering if on behalf of the DDA, if this would apply to any board members or people that are acting the part, and if so, that should be included as well.
So I think what Brad has indicated is that in accordance with state guidelines or with approval of the board or, or whatnot, I think would be fine, however you want to phrase that. I think would be appropriate. Is that too loose from us right now?
Right now it says employees of, maybe we could say employees or board members
Employees or
in
board
terms of the
I
wording.
think that's what we change it to.
Yep.
Employees are.
Maybe with a small blurb that just says that if it is a board member, that the expenses are approved by the board at a meeting.
So could the motion be to approve it in accordance with state recommended guidelines or as necessary with approval of the board?
State, federal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've adopted it according to those guidelines. We don't really have to say that we have the wording here. I think the additional wording goes something like, this also refers to board members acting in the same capacity, but any given board member, if they're going to act, has to have the approval of the board as opposed to Jay's spending policy. See,
I would agree
the
with
board
that.
member can't act unless this board knows about it.
Exactly.
So that would be the amendment to a motion if it was made.
One thing that I think would be important to clarify is the difference between an employee and a volunteer with regards to our expectations for expenses. So let's say we all go to Lansing for some sort of Main Street training. Well, that would be a special trip. But does this mean that by including board members in this, we're now Like, would I be claiming mileage then driving from my house to here to show up for a Main Street meeting at that
No.
point?
It says commuting is not.
It's
Which I wouldn't.
expenditures on behalf of this Main Street.
This is for, yeah, I mean, I think that would come up. If there was that opportunity, it would have to be passed as a resolution through the board that says, okay, if 5 board members want to go, they can go to this event and the expenses will be covered or not covered, whatever that would be. Because otherwise our policy would go from 1 page to 25 pages covering all the.
It's not who, it's what. We're covering what. It doesn't matter who. Any expenditure.
Except that the policy we're looking at is just for the employee.
I'm sorry, Jerry, say that again.
Or the policy we're looking at right now is just strictly for employees.
We expanded it to board members.
Is that what we're asking?
No, that's what the discussion was going is, do we mention in the board member in this particular policy?
I don't know that we have to. I think the point is well made, that it would apply to us as well or anybody else. But if we send somebody else to do something for us, it would be applied to them as well.
I guess let's look at the Ardelicious fundraiser. You know, I've been given a budget of so many dollars to spend and obviously raise at the same time. And so I've already have that authority at the moment.
But that was given by a vote.
A vote of the board.
Correct.
Exactly. So I think if we were given the authority to spend money, like I said, it has to come through here first. So maybe this really focuses just on the employee.
I think
Yeah.
Jerry's right. I think we're getting in muddy waters.
Yep.
Any type of activity that the board's gonna do as a whole
Mhm.
will be voted on at this board. This is
Exactly.
just an employee,
Exactly.
so.
And stick to that.
Dusty, I have a question for you and Brad.
Yeah.
As a board member, when the financials are presented regarding any expenditures on behalf of the executive director, is it the board member's assumption that as that's presented by Brad, that the executive team has, you know, in essence, approved that, so that what is our obligation to get in the weeds on that? I mean, the assumption would be, I would think for most board members, that if something's coming to us at this meeting, that somebody has reviewed that and said, this is within the realm. Okay, so I don't know if that needs to be in there, but when bad stuff happens on these kind of groups, everybody's looking at each other and wondering, whoops, who didn't do that? So the assumption is that the executive team will have, when they present this at the board meeting, that we as board members can look at it, but we're in essence expecting that the leadership has approved the expenditures of the executive director. Okay.
I do just want to push to say at least the board member guidebook, I think just to have a little bit of consistency should at least reference that those guidelines and the employee policy are what we should be held accountable to as well. Just so that we're on the same page and operating by the same rules.
Okay, we
Is it
can,
okay if
we
I
can add
just-
that in a later date.
Yeah, so when we get to the board member handbook, I would agree, Michael, at that point, if it isn't in here, we would address it in that handbook.
Okay, I didn't see it, but
It's not,
okay,
or it needs to be added.
okay.
Yeah. Not that we can see.
Is it okay if I add something, just so everyone's aware, the city has like travel reimbursement policies and all of that for all employees that also cover board members and things like that. So I haven't looked at this. I don't know what it says, but like the, gas mileage rates, all of that is all set. So it may be a good idea to just make sure that that all lines up with, so there's not a conflict there.
So employee expense policy. Does that need to be altered and brought back at the next meeting? We need to update that. Same with the board handbook. Because I don't know if I can get wording right today to make a motion to make it go through. Is that right, Jay?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so we'll pass on and table the employee expense policy. Actually, I need a motion to table it. As motion, is there support? Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Same thing with the board member handbook. I need a motion to table it. And there's support. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. I don't think I did that the last time. All right, let's go to match on Main.
We've got the credit card policy. Do we gonna skip that too?
Oh, I thought that's what, oh, yeah, I did not do that. Is the credit card policy okay? I don't know if that has to be addressed.
Just need a motion.
Yeah.
Support that. for those.
I need a motion for the credit card. policy.
Motion to accept
There's
this credit card policy.
Is there support?
Support.
Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those-
Move.
So the credit card policy is now adopted, and we will come back to the employee expense policy and board member handbook as it relates to city policies and adopting those policies and the like. So we'll work that up and bring it back to you in our next meeting for October. Now we can move to match. I mean, I'm moving too fast.
So, MEDC, so it's recommendation of the executive director that the Main Street DDA board authorize the executive director to apply for the Match on Main grant.
So up till now, I believe Michelle's taken great leadership role on this, and the city has, and every time it's shown itself, twice a year, I believe it is. They administered it and really took applications for it and decided who gets approved for it. What we're seeing now and what we want to do is that really should be in the DDA's, activities, not just the cities. And the city understands that and sort of encourages us to sort of take that leadership role now. So Jay will be administering the whole thing, and just need a motion to approve that.
Second.
There's motion and second. Now some discussion. It's a chance for $25,000 match for downtown business. So we're going to keep pushing these. There'll be a number of these types of initiatives. Jay's going to keep watching for them. We're going to keep implementing. All right.
Just a couple things quick. The grant window opens October 3rd, so I'll be sending information out to the businesses this week. It's the grant actually closes October 28th, but that's when I have to have the application in. So the business window will be shorter than that. I probably need about a week to work with the committee that decides who goes. I won't be the sole decider. I will just be putting the information together, and we'll actually be scoring those grants according to the process and rubric that's provided by the MEDC. So there's actually a whole packet of the actual process that takes place.
What are the priorities that you're gonna look at, so the business might want to apply?
So it has to be, there's a whole thing on the MEDC website for it, but it has to be a place-based business. It could be new or existing. And there's requirements of what those funds can be used for. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can certainly get that to you if you'd like. Yeah, and there will be a couple of questions that can be qualifiers locally for that. So we'll be reviewing that as it goes out as well.
Just a question about grants. Do we need to, as a board, approve Jay seeking out individual grants such as this? Because it seems like that's hampering flexibility if he discovers that something's available and the deadline is the week before the DDA meeting.
I don't know if we have to give them special authority on that. I think the idea is that in performance, when you find out, you get it to the public as quickly as possible and get it to our downtown businesses. And that's a performance-based evaluation, in my opinion, via day.
That we apply for as a will require that our board or whatever has approved it prior to our application.
It depends. That's the best answer I could give. Like there was one that I sent out to local businesses that was a third-party bank that was providing that grant. So there was nothing from our board. This one requires us to be the applicant because we do all of the legwork and capture all the local ones and then submit 2 representatives. So so it'd have to come here either way. Not all of them do, but some do. Like the RAP grant, for example, it didn't require us to notify you of it. It's just, that's the way. And that's typically what I see through the MEDC, but there will be some like this as well.
I have a following question in regards to this. Last year, Greg Elliott and some others oversaw this grant. Now, if we take control of this and say we have 10 applicants for the grant and we only accept 2 and submit it to the MEDC
Mhm.
as a board, you know, these downtown businesses will maybe even possibly get upset with us now, you know, approving this and not recommending them. So my thought process would maybe even still administering a third party to approve it. So that way we don't have downtown businesses coming at us possibly. Because I think there could be some huge resentment and some other businesses that are maybe outside the DDA district might feel like they are.
So there's very specific guidelines and rules for the grant. One of them is the administering body has to grade those grants. And if we bring in a third party in, that's an additional fee for us to do that. So we'd have to pay somebody. In my discussions with Greg this week, he would be part of the group, I would be part of the group. Dusty would be part of the group that would sit and evaluate those. If we need to bring more people to the table, we could certainly do that. I just think that's part of our responsibility and we kind of take the heat for some things sometimes, you know, that's what we do.
Stalking, there were issues. I mean, I'm going back 25 years ago, there were issues when grants were chosen.
There were historically some issues when there were grants available through the city. And some people argued that they had more advantage working with certain city people and got grants, or had an in with city people and got grants. I remember that very well. And we worked through those issues at that time. I think that the key is that a very objective approach and that use very objective criteria when you determine whether or not you have met the criteria. And I think that somebody has to determine whether that has occurred or not. And I think that if you have the proper people doing the evaluation and you do your due diligence in the grading and that you have the right people at the table, you don't necessarily prepare for heat. You make the tough decisions like you do when hiring people. And if you aren't operating with objectivity and due diligence and responsibly, you deserve the heat. And I think that that's what's going to happen. And you do have a responsibility to look in the eyes of the people who you're making those decisions when you're giving those grants. But the 2 recipients also have a responsibility to give honest answers and to accept the money and do the work. It's not easy. I've looked at those grants for my own building and said to apply their standards is going to cost $80,000 to work with people who I can hire, who are good people, hardworking people who need the work and still feel I've done my responsible action in choosing it. I can do it for $46,000. You know, I make a decision.
Yep.
And so I think there's a lot more than what used to be. It would be a lie to say that didn't happen and that people didn't complain, because they did. And maybe there was truth to it. I do not know. But that did happen when banks were giving low interest loans and all that other stuff. I mean, it was no easy. It wasn't a cakewalk then, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to get that 25 grand, but
Yep.
people are going to have to step up and do what's right.
So up to now, the city has administered it and really taken the heat if there had been heat, but it's been a competitive process and it's not everybody really qualifies for.
And it's
this particular
objective.
grant. Yeah.
It's an
exactly.
objective process. And there will be questions and they will have to answer them, but
And the rubric that's provided is very detailed and, you know, it's not, you have to answer all the questions and they have to make sense when you answer them. And and there's disqualifiers that are pretty obvious throughout the grant process. I know the city spent several hours last time just grading the grants. So I mean, it's not going to be A couple of us, oh, this one looks good, we'll take that one. I mean, we have a process we have to go through because of the way the grant's administered, so.
Based on the dates, October 3rd through the 28th, we'll have a meeting, but we won't see the applicants, and there won't be time to get to the next meeting before the applicants are submitted to the MEDC. So this is really just a vote of letting us administer it or help with the city in administering it. And again, if it's a Main Street grant that's in our authority, I think we take on that as a partnership. I you can put it that way, because Greg's gonna sit at the table and we're still gonna have city employees help us with this. But yeah, there are things that we should take the heat for at times too, if it has to be. Yep.
And I would just ask that there is a lot of communication, not saying that wasn't the case last time. I'm not sure people wanted to listen, because there's a difference between hearing what you're being told and accepting that. But I know that I had a couple people a couple different businesses reach out, and they're like, I wasn't even considered, like, I didn't know about this. They didn't they literally were going to be disqualified immediately just because of where they were located. But to them, it said match on Main. So they thought they were on Main Street, that automatically qualified them. But maybe if there's some communication, like, you don't even qualify it out, like, and maybe they listen or they don't listen, but at least letting them know, like, so even before you were to get down, maybe you did have 4 that were qualified applicants, but maybe letting the ones that had a disqualifier, letting them know that, whether they really want to hear that or not, at least letting them know that and communicating that, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Communication is much better now, and there are people that anticipate that they will be discriminated against, and making communication and information available to people does resolve some of those issues, and being responsive in a kind and, an understanding way always is the best approach. And I would hope that we as an organization will always approach it that way, and honestly and open. And I believe we have the people at the table who will do that.
All right, further discussion. A while ago, we had a motion and support. No further discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Thank you, Jay. All right, committee reports, promotion committee, downtown events calendar. Maybe Michelle, do you have something here? Or who's?
First I'll add on to the match on Main conversation.
Okay,
Yeah, there's an entire rubric that you use, and it's objective, but I mean, you immediately disqualify, all the applicants that don't meet I forget how many requirements it was, a lot. It's a giant table, and I'm sure it'll be similar this time. One thing I mentioned to Jay as far as communication that, last time we just got it out, we had a really short time frame, but one thing to communicate to the businesses is how important it is that they actually read through the requirements and understand them and write that application as though they're writing it to the state. Because some, I felt like, wrote it like they were just writing it to us, but the businesses that you choose, you then have to turn around and submit an application on their behalf using the information they provided. So if they didn't provide, enough information for you to support, it makes it really difficult. So that's one thing as far as communication that, if I was doing it, I would change. As far as downtown events, like Jay mentioned, September 1st Friday was great. It was super busy. We did have a pretty serious medical emergency, which led to another incident. An individual hit me with their car on purpose because they were trying to leave the event early, which led me back to this conversation again of, it's kind of a weird position for me. So, at that point, when something like that happens, I have to put on my city employee hat because the police know who I am and I have a little bit of credibility there. But, if I'm not there and it's someone else running the event, or it's another volunteer that happens to, and maybe somebody doesn't see it, I think it would be good for us to have, some sort of umbrella underneath the DDA of policies and procedures and things that we can share with police and fire so that everybody's aware during these large events of, who's the person to contact when there's a problem, who's in charge, who has authority, what are the policies and rules. We ended up just banning that person, but we filed a police report so that if they come back, we can actually have them trespassed from the event. We don't have to mess around with it, but you know, that they're great events, but the bigger they get, like we keep talking about, the more these things come up, so. October's first Friday. So I decided to kind of go with a Maple Pride theme, which doesn't mean just the schools. The idea is, you know, just pride in our community. But I'm gonna promote it in such a way. I think it'd be really cool to see a lot of blue and white downtown during our last big first Friday. Downtown trick or treat. We're planning on the 29th. Last time we did it from 4:30 to 6:30. I don't know if anybody has any strong feelings about it. That seemed to go well.
Just a heads up. I might be a little more limited, at least on my help side. That is the Michigan State game at the University of Michigan, and they haven't even announced the time because it's relying on TV. So
Probably going to be a night game.
a night game, great. So anyways, that may take out one of my main helpers, but that's fine. I'm not going, so I'll be here. But anyways, just keep that in mind, you know, that I don't really think it'll affect the families that come to our trick or treating or anything like that. It just could possibly affect a few of the volunteers.
And the other options for that weekend, I mean, would be Friday or Sunday. When we did a poll last year, businesses absolutely did not want to do it on Sunday. You know, Friday isn't always an option, but it's a little tough because, you know, kids go to school and people work that day. So unless anybody feels strongly about it, I would probably leave it on Saturday. I don't really have anything else unless anybody has any questions about events coming up.
October first Friday is the theme again. Or we're working on it.
Maple Pride.
Maple Pride.
And I do like the trick or treating at starting at 4:30 because businesses, a lot of them on Saturdays might end by 4:30, maybe they end by 5, but at least then it's like right on the tail end of that. And I just feel like Saturday's a great day to get people downtown right after, you know, people are coming down to restaurants and stuff anyways, but to get them right at those retail businesses and other businesses like that. I do feel that's best.
I did have one more question about Artalicious. So the evening portion of that with the bands, is there a plan for like cleanup afterwards so that the next day, you know, when we open Artalicious again, we don't have Dara everywhere and whatnot?
I'll be me and
I'm Brad. So my experience over the years, downtown trick or treat, it can rain, it can be freezing, they come anyway. It doesn't matter if there's a football game, it's absolutely a madhouse every time. So as soon as you close the streets, tell them they get candy. And it is all because they get so much candy per square foot and walking. That's why they do it. And it's safe environment. You don't have all the cars driving down the streets in College Avenue and all that, which is intimidating. So I think it's very I want to go back to Welcome Back Bash, just to let you know how fun that was and how much we would like to get behind this, or at least I would like to get behind this next year. And we're going to talk about Town and Gown in a moment and how that works. Actually, I'm just going to push it right to here to Town and Gown. You know, we were down there and Drake was selling the barcodes and everything. He was talking to these students better than I was, but they were all signing on the big banner. The cheerleaders did something from Santa Heights. There was a lot of competition that could have been even bigger. Everything could have been bigger. You could just see it. You're like, my gosh, this could be such a bigger event. The Town and Gown Committee met for years. It needs to reunify, I think, around this. I think this is a great thing for it to reunify. And Michael, I appreciate all the work you did on that as well, and everybody that was down here. Jeff, everything. It was just a great event. And I just think as we move forward, I know Visit Runaway had some change in personnel. They were okay with us taking this on. They wanted it to remember it was canceled and we took it on real last second. So I was pretty proud that there was at least 500 students down here. It should have been more like 700 to 1,000 is what it should have been. So by next year, I would like us to be well in front of this one. And Mark, what would you like to say about Town and Gown?
Thank you, Dusty. So just a brief recap on Town and Gown. We've been meeting for probably 10 years, quarterly. We have a meeting here in the downtown area, either at City Hall, and we pull together leaders from the local schools and the local community. And there's been some discussion. It's a small group and not that powerful. We don't have a budget, but we were involved previously with the Welcome Back students, and it kind of moved in a couple different directions and ended up where it is now. The reason we'd like to have Town and Gown on the discussion for the Main Street Board is previously we've had Michael Orlando, myself and others have had discussions with the Adrian Chamber about affiliating or associating with another entity. And we've had discussions more recently about some kind of an affiliation or a partnership with the Main Street program. Given that the colleges and the town is Adrian and the colleges are in Adrian. And in general, we believe that the best affiliation or relationship support would come from a relationship with the Main Street program. So I was just, wanting to open it up for some discussion. We're not looking, that group is not looking for any financial support, but just a tighter and closer relationship. Several of the people in this group are on that board, are involved with that group. And so I was hoping we might get a motion of support for affiliation without looking at any kind of formal arrangement, but just to have a level of affiliation with Main Street that we could develop over time and come back to Main Street Board for partnerships that make sense for both the Main Street Board and for the Town and Gown. Michael?
Say a few words.
Yes, Mike.
So I think I've been part of Town and Gown for 12 years and I've seen different roles of leadership, but Mark has been chair for really the last 8 or so years at least, if not longer, right? So
Time flies.
time flies. And I think something that is evident even of this last event that we had downtown, we need our local businesses and we need the colleges coming together for volunteering. I think it fits really well under the 4 points of Main Street, specifically to organization and promotion. And it's also a chance for us to build those stronger relationships between the colleges and universities with Main Street, which is a strategic part of what we're trying to do here as a board and as a director. So I'm really excited about this potential, and I think that it would only help our vibrancy continue to grow.
And Town and Gown is not just the colleges, it is also your students from Adrian Public Schools, Madison, it encompasses more than just the colleges as well. So you're talking about your families that are coming to downtown with their children as well, too.
Yeah, we've invited any of the institutions, including the ISD, to participate. And so we've managed to have a pretty good inclusive group of people coming to that quarterly meeting. So.
And in the Main Street approach too, one of the things they highlight in their organization training is that the student population is one of your most bountiful resources when it comes to volunteers, because they're looking for things to do, they're looking to become engaged. So something like this, where the inherent mission is to get the students downtown and involved more, I think would be a natural association.
Yeah, when I was sitting at the table, I was supposed to be doing something. Drake came and showed me, but they had the QR code. And what he would say to the student was, if you would take a picture of this, we will send you downtown events as they happen, everything that's going in downtown. But on the other side, it became part of our database of people. And we can watch that student as they go through and make sure they're well informed about what we're doing at Main Street and keeping them engaged. So you gathered a number of them, I'm sure. But that would create a great opportunity for us.
So, Mr. Chair, I was hoping that we might get a motion on the floor in a very general terms for looking for an affiliation into the future, and then let that develop as it goes.
Can I get a motion to that effect? There's been a motion. Is there support? Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Agenda. So that we begin to acquire a reporting station that we follow. Otherwise, I think it would just go by the wayside and it won't become something that we work on.
Absolutely.
I agree.
We could actually contribute to it because we've identified people's needs. The people I look to right now who are always.
So we'll add it to the organization. I moved ahead, but we'll add it to the organization committee information. We'll put it in that part of the agenda.
Dusty, just finally, it's really important for that when people like Drake Lally and others who are younger and energetic are involved with Town and Gown, we can really move ahead a lot faster. So encourage other younger leaders to get involved with Town and Gown and also with the Main Street Board.
Yeah, what was enlightening was when Jay turned to Adrian College and Jay turned Santa Heights, and both of them were so eager. There was so much eagerness there. We weren't sure because in the past you've heard different things. However, there was buy-in on both sides. And so I think the only thing missing is getting everybody back to the table and organizing it. And getting in front of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of those other, they are not at the table, to the best of my knowledge, they're not regulators. And I think that we're missing a third application.
So add other schools. And Mark, you'll maintain chairman for now?
I'm sorry.
You'll still maintain chairman for now
Of what?
of the Town and Gown Committee?
I'll be involved with it for a while. We're in a transition.
When you're in transition, I gotcha.
I think just to be candid, Jay and I have talked about how his role as a DDA director could help us in potential formation of gathering and running their meetings.
All right. All right, that moves on. Drake is working on the retail guide. We don't need to go on that. That's just on the agenda. I want to move to New Year's Eve. Has there been any movement there?
So New Year's Eve, we've had conversations with a few restaurants and it's been lukewarm at best. They're not engaged to be open late on New Year's Eve, and some of the businesses that we've talked to are very excited. But some of the ones that we see being key players in it just aren't interested in being part of that. As we kind of regroup over the next few weeks, we need to decide if we're going to move forward with something this year or not. If we do move forward with something, it may just be, a band downtown and a maple leaf drop if we get to that point. But there's a larger picture. Surprisingly to me, there's not the interest from our establishments to participate in a greater level.
Do food trucks come out in the winter? Like, is that a possibility for food?
They will come out.
I
If
feel
there are
like they can, yeah. I mean, is that a possibility if the restaurants don't want to stay open? Because I feel like food trucks are more willing to do those crazier hours, it seems like.
I think we need to talk about that in a different.
Okay,
You want to light that fuse right there, just here?
sorry.
Still at the commission level. All right. Excellent. They'll keep working on that. And I think that's a decent idea. We can look into that. Page 2, we move on. Jay and I continue to discuss meetings. We have not pulled fundraising. It's sound like a broken record here. But I think a lot of this work that we've been doing, it's time for us to, I've told Jay, we're just going to start meeting with every one of them. So you'll see progress by next meeting. And we've been talking. I will say that Dave, proves to us that there's support for downtown with his fundraising as we talk about our delicious, and I'll move right to that.
Yeah, so we are pretty much all set. Obviously, I want to say thanks to my sponsors, Mechanical Solutions, Culver's, Visit Lenawee, Noe Law Offices, and Maggots Razors. So I have raised $7,500 for this event. Right now, our expenses are looking right around $5,500. So we're able to put about $2,000 in the bank. So obviously, I want to thank Don too for his partnership at Our Delicious. It's going to be a great event. We have 2 great bands, Flowers on the Grave, and then Billy Lewis on the Soulbacks. So we're finishing some banners up right now. Don, I need to chit chat with you after this today to finalize a couple other things. But we're all set, ready to go. We might have a small VIP party for some of our sponsors at a undisclosed establishment at 3 o'clock. More news on that in the future. So, any questions?
After the VIP party, will those still be an extra $2K in the bank, or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and obviously, as Brad alluded to, I purchased a donation box out of my own expenses. And hopefully we can raise some extra funds as well. So pretty excited. Can I just add one more thing?
Sure.
I just want to talk about dark ups real quick. I'll be getting an email out in coordination with Jay. So going back, obviously, I got approval to order 10 more cases of cups, and obviously it was around $2,400. And so it's 1,000 cups per case. So now so now we're at $236.50 per case for dark cups now, where originally we were at $150 a case. So that's just due to inflation, cost, and what have you. So, but also I'll be working with Jay, finding storage for the dark cups and be getting them downtown and really transitioning Jay over to managing that piece. And obviously, as we move forward during the bid process and trying to find a better vendor moving forward. So hopefully we can get cheaper cups. So that way we don't have to pass on that hard expense to our downtown businesses. So
And it's just a prime example of spending policy.
yeah,
And being able to adopt that. The dark cups are invoiced for the city level to the various businesses. So we thank the city again for all their help and partnerships as we work through this. It's not, it takes time to
Yep.
issue invoices.
Mhm.
And I'm assured that everything has been cash flowing neutral there.
Yep.
So, and I believe that's the case, right, Jay? Yeah. So that's working out well. Don, it's not public comment. Do you have anything you'd like to mention about our delicious at this time, since it's on the subject?
Public comment.
All right, we'll do it there then. All right. Any questions for David? Great job.
I'll see everybody on Saturday or Friday night setup, Saturday,
And then,
Sunday.
and I look back at this, I'll bring the subject up. I look back to all the way back to Maple City Fest when I was up in the mornings cleaning up trash. One of our duties, either we'll outsource it or we do it ourselves, is that the city workers tend to take on this bigger responsibility on our behalf, and we need to really get more hands on there. I know Michelle's thanking me right now. We all need to help clean up. I'm guilty of it too, but we really need to clean up our parties. So just want to make mention of that. Economic vitality, we're still working with some of the software, putting things in. It's constant and detailed thing. Somebody yelling. All right. Sound like I'm at Kiwanis You heard an update on downtown street lamps. Everything more done, and then the trees are ordered and they put the rest of it in.
One thing on the downtown street lamps, a citizen reached out to me just recently because they know there's digital signs that are going to be going up on there. One of the questions they had is how legible is it going to be like when you're driving by on those, because they were questioning the reason it came up was they were questioning our makeshift signs that we put up for like First Fridays to like warn people at both ends of town that like the streets are going to be closed or whatever event it is, not just First Friday. And they were like, could we put something more permanent, like at the fire station, not that? And I said, well, there's going to be these digital signs. And they're like, oh yeah, I know, but I don't going to be able to read those. So I guess, do we know on that? Because I didn't know on that, how easy they are going to be able to read, how big they are. Like that was their concern. And they just they just thought it didn't look aesthetically pleasing that, we have these makeshift signs right when we're going to do street closures. And if there was anything to do something more permanent. But I said, that's why we're getting these digital signs. So.
Well, the banners are gonna be, pretty much the size of like the banners that are out there now. So they'll be as
Fair.
legible as that. They won't be any bigger. So yeah, you'll be able to see them and read them as you're driving by. DPW put out the big MDOT closure signs for us. Which although they're not the prettiest thing in the world, I think they help a lot because a lot of
Yep.
people that aren't on social media or don't get the paper, it lets them know the streets are gonna be closed and what's going on. I don't know about, Greg's not back on here. I don't know what our sign ordinance is for permanent giant, you know.
Well,
displays.
my point to the resident was that we don't have that many events. Like, it's not that often. I mean, it's a few months in the summer that it goes up and warns you like a few days ahead, you know, but that's exactly what I said. You notice it. You know, those streets are going to be closed. You can't miss those and they stick out. And I don't know. It was just a comment by a citizen and then they questioned on the digital signs. And I said, well, I think they're banner size. They're like, you're not gonna be able to read those when you're going, like, that was the point of that. So I didn't know if they were bigger than that because I couldn't remember. I knew we saw them a long time ago, but I couldn't remember.
Well, and those big signs also help, you know, because that's a state, you know, trunk line. So it helps with truck drivers and people who work in Adrian or just driving through on a regular basis to know to go around on the, you know, on those events.
If I'm not mistaken, under digital sign policies and the sign ordinance, which Jay's gonna take on and take over. No, it's Jerry, that's right. Anyway. They can only change every, 3 minutes? And so it'll be messaging for us quite often, but we need to be creative with that too as we move forward. Might be an opportunity for some advertising and the like. There's gonna be what, 2 different corners? They're all 4.
All 4 entry points and down to the 4 corners.
They'll be digital. So yeah, we'll be working on that as it comes along. Any other discussion on that? Canopy lighting staying on the agenda. Anything new there? Kevin, do you look any more? Jay, any more on canopy lighting at this time? All right, we're just keep it as a focus.
Yep.
All right, let away now. What's happening? Tim?
Just a couple of items. We're having an event September 30th at the Adrian College Boathouse. We're partnering with Adrian College. It's going to be a symposium, an ethics symposium led by the professor of ethics at Adrian College. Nice Greek gentleman with a name about that long that I would kill if I tried to pronounce it. So this is going to be September 30th from 12:30 to 2:30, 3 o'clock. Lunch is provided. It's free. Just go on our website and you can apply, you can register. And then again, what we talked about last month, the Square One competition will be October 18th at the Armory, starting at, I believe, 5 o'clock or 5 o'clock. We got our applications in. We extended the deadline to this Friday, so we'll have a couple more come in. Work with those with those applicants. Again, we'll have free food, free adult beverages and youngster beverages, hoping for a good turnout. We had over 100 last time we did it, probably 120 when it was at Cotton Brewing. So we're looking for a fun event. Just bring out more people downtown and talk about business ideas.
I mean, the free drinks is what causes that, you know.
Apparently, I'm not supposed to say free drinks, but we'll have to, Jim always hits me when I say that.
Yeah.
So if there's any questions, anything else we're doing or those events.
Any questions for Tim? Thank you, Tim. Are there any other DDA business matters in this meeting today? Hearing. Yes.
Just and talking to Jim Berryman yesterday, and Jim's done a phenomenal job at developing the Comstock tree project over the years. Jim's recently had surgery, and I kid him, he's planning on living forever, of course, but at some point there needs to be a transition on that, and whether it's the Main Street Board, whoever, but I would encourage us and Jim to begin a discussion on partnership for the leadership into the future, because Jim would love to see this thing be something that goes on forever, and this is a good time to enter that discussion in the next year. And I've had that discussion with Jim. So.
And I could not agree more on that. And, you know, I was concerned even last year, just needing more volunteers and volunteers for things like Christmas trees were falling down because the winds were so bad, or there were things like that. Jim's out there trying to corral these trees by himself, and he needed surgery and he wasn't, you know, doing the best when he's getting up there in years. We love him dearly, but you know, that was hard on him. And he's like, I can't do all this. And that was the thing. And it was like the weekend. So it's not like there were city workers around, and I was out there trying to fix trees. He called me and, and trying to help him and get some trees up and help with that. But that is something where it's a lot more than just the prep. I mean, it is literally Jim's there every day checking on the trees. There's always an issue. Lights are out. There just always seems to be something every single day. I cannot tell you how many times I drove by and Jim's car was there again. Jim's car was there again. And so it is something that is all encompassing all the way until those trees are gone. It is not just getting those trees delivered, getting them there. It's a daily, at least check-in, if not a couple times a day. And there's just more volunteers needed when it comes to really more of just the day-to-day after those trees are up, as well as the prep.
So the city has never really adopted the project. Nobody has ever really officially adopted the Christmas tree project.
No,
The city has really
I
part.
mean, it is a city, but Jim is the person that has taken this over, that oversees it, that, he does all of that work
The
behind that.
massive amount of phone calls that he does. is
Massive,
Unbelievable.
He also does all of the fundraising for that event. which is-
all the fundraising, because a lot of that is, there's a lot of fundraising that goes into that as
So
well.
who collects the $60 per tree?
City.
The city,
Okay, so the city does have the project, but they need somebody to do what Jim does.
It would.
a committee, yeah.
Yeah.
So he could still be the master of ceremonies, but we need somebody to do the legwork with him for a year,
Yes.
perhaps, to learn
It's-
what he's doing and whatnot.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And
He's Father Christmas. He is not going to want to give this up. It's not like that. But we just need help to come along, alongside. He really needs a committee. I know one day I had talked to him and I think he had 25 phone calls that day about, I can't find my tree. I don't know where this is. They're all going to Jim. They've all gotten his personal number. They all know how to get a hold of
Does-
him. And
Does
so.
he or have a person that he is interested in, or does the city have somebody available to take those 25 calls? He's giving out his cell number. But does the city have somebody who they could identify who could fill that role?
So I think that was the reason for me bringing it up is
Exactly.
that it needs a home and it seems like Main Street is where that home should be into the
Mhm.
future. We don't have to do all the work, but we should be part of the leadership team that organizes volunteers and organizes this event into the future because there's nobody but us.
And right now he organizes on his own, all the volunteers to get the trees up, to get them off the truck, to get them set up. He organizes all of that on his own. And that's where the committee would be really helpful to come alongside to help him to take some of those duties. I mean, I know he still really wants to be involved in and really have his foot, boots to the ground, but he just really needs some help. And part of that is just because the demand has gotten so high. There's so many trees, people wanting trees. I mean, it's just grown, which is amazing because it's grown to be such a big event, but because of that, it's become bigger than he can really handle at this point.
And you talk about an expense that the city takes on for something. This is one of the big ones, the partnership. Because not only that electricity, but all the DPW workers that go out and lay all those stakes and put those trees up and everything else. The city is committed on this is.
And there's just
Sure.
nobody at the city that could really take this on. I mean, this is too big of a job. That's why, they help, they assist, obviously they collect the money. DPW is out there all the time. Parks and Forestry is out there all the time. I mean, they're right there, but there just needs to be more help when it comes to Jim's part of it, because there's really, the city people are very stretched already, even with Comstock Park, they're already stretched when it comes that time of year. There's just really nobody to take that role.
Are you looking for a motion for the DDA to adopt the Christmas tree project?
No,
No.
Okay, then. Then-
I'm just bringing it up.
You just get the
Okay.
discussion going.
Okay, so
It's
we
actually-
put out the word, if we know of a volunteer, we should let Jim know of such a person or.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems kind of mundane, really. I don't know that. Because he's been looking for somebody for quite a while. I know that. So I think we ought to put a little more force behind it. I don't think we're in a position to adopt the project either. I do not believe so. But I think we ought to do more than make a strong suggestion that if anybody knows somebody to help Jim, that sounds a little helpless to me.
This
To
really
be quite
just,
frank, here at this table, I don't know that that's gonna do a lot for Jim.
this really just highlights the importance too of getting going with the organizational recruitment of volunteers. Because the more people that we can identify who are interested in doing something, the larger pool we have to pull from for something like this, where somebody will naturally stand out and, well, you could be the next Father Christmas someday.
Yeah, and he is discussing trees into the downtown as well, in pots,
Right, I know.
planting them. So it's coming even closer into
Yeah.
our neighborhood.
Or maybe it's there, we're asking ourselves if we could fill that, or if we could
Right.
do some more for him individual and personally. I'm not really sure.
I know,
Maybe it should go on the agenda so that we could think about it and do some more for him for next month. I don't really know if there's that kind of time even available, but I'd like to see us be able to do more than just rack it around the table.
yeah, no, I agree. And I think Drake's point's good too. We need more volunteers. I would not want to bury this guy into that particular project, taking all the phone calls. That would be, we would lose him for 2 months.
No, I don't think anybody wants to hit anybody over the head with it.
Right.
It takes more of us. It's
Yeah.
really gonna take a lot. more.
Mhm.
Very good point. Thank you again, Mark.
But Jim's got to quit giving out his phone number.
I know, that's his fault.
And I-
We
based
don't
on-
give it out. He-
Based on the length of his phone calls, I highly doubt he got 25 calls in one day.
I will 100% agree with that comment right there.
And that was my chair comments now.
And he emailed
What's
got
that?
his email.
He
out
does.
too now.
He does.
Yeah.
He loves it though. I know he does, but it's getting cumbersome and we all need to talk about succession when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move to public comment.
Speaking of getting up there in years, Madam Mayor, I heard that and I agree. Yeah, I'll address that in a minute. So 15th Annual Artlicious Fine Arts Fair this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 7 on Saturday with great entertainment afterwards. Thank you so much for partnering with us. I'm telling you what, we've got 2 great bands. But before that, we've got Los Hermanos, which is really a great band, and some wonderful local entertainment. So it's going to be a fun weekend. And the weather is supposed to be good. But anyway, just about 60 artists, 15 of them will be demonstrating for 2-hour blocks. That's always a big thing. Nonprofit Row on West Maumee Street, about 17 or 18 nonprofit organizations. The kids do lots of art projects. They go to Louvre Junior. They get a real piece of art made by an artist. That's a really cool project. We have the Juggler, we have My Adventure Theater, a historic building tour. Planewave will bring one of their telescopes downtown. That was a big hit last year, I might add. However, in this building, from noon to 4 on Saturday and Sunday, we have the first ever Lenawee County K-12 student art show organized by Annie Howard with Adrian Public Schools. Go Maples, Maple Pride. I love that for October. I'll clean this before I wear it again. We have 125 student pieces of work that were submitted by art teachers. So elementary school, middle school, oh, look here. Oh my gosh. Look what she's got up there. Is she great or what? So this is some of the work that we're going to be seeing in here. 3 different screens, middle, high school, or elementary, middle, and high school. And it's hard to get people down the street. So we're going to have the students do chalk art all the way down East Maumee Street and some signage to get people down here. I think this is really cool. And hats off to Annie for organizing that. The Adrian Center for the Arts has an exhibit called Ties That Bind. It's going to be in the Gallery of Shops, and the black mask that everybody from the ACA decorated. What was the impact of COVID-19 on their lives? We'll have a booth set up where people can actually do that. You know, you can come by, decorate a mask, and it'll be part of the exhibit. Special things at the library. You know, we have an auction every year. We went from charity to birdhouses. And then we had an idea this year, and I'm not even going to mention it because the Michigan, Ohio Woodturners Club, they're with us every year. They do lots of great things. They say, we don't like your idea at all. And I said, what do you think we should do? And they said, we should donate all the work for this auction. I urge you to go to the library. There's about 50 pieces on display. I mean, they are amazing pieces. And although we normally, when we have an auction, we use some of it to cover our budget. And sometimes we give some funds to art programs, but the sign says all the money is going to go to youth art programs. So I think we're probably committed to do that. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised that we raise, I don't know, a lot of money. It's some beautiful, beautiful stuff for your home. So I really urge you to go by and bid. I guess basically, well, we have food, of course. We have food. Plenty of bars and restaurants. You can go get a drink, walk around, have a glass of wine, martini, whatever you want to have during the festival and or the fair, I mean. So I think it's going to be a great weekend. I'm looking forward to it. We're actually ready. We're really struggling for volunteers. I mean, struggling for volunteers. Jay, you understand it. Everybody understands this whole volunteer situation. It's finally coming together, but it took a lot of effort. And we have to somehow address that. Our community loves to come downtown for First Fridays. Oh my God, it's a great night. And for Artilicious, but where do we get the volunteers to do all the work, to put together the trash bags, to clean up afterwards, to put up the information booth. I mean, I need about 2 more bodies to hold the walls on the information booth up on Friday at 6 o'clock. But anyway, I'm taking too much of your time. Thanks for not starting the 3-minute thing. I appreciate it. I will.
In the future now.
I will say one thing, and I know she'll get mad at me, but I couldn't do a lot of things that I do without Michelle. I mean, she is a great partner. And if you want to know, if you want to know what we were doing together last weekend, she was at her place and I was at my place, and we were working together on stuff all weekend long. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate your support, especially the partnership on Saturday night. It means a great deal to us. You buy the first beer, David.
I got you, bro.
And Jay and I talk about this often, the volunteers. So often we've had volunteers come down and not have a charge or something to do. And so it really is for all of our events, having descriptions of what the volunteers would do. We're trying to break it down, saying that so that I need you to come down here to do this is a real missing component. And that's what we're trying to rebuild. And each of our committees and each of our events is how do you define those volunteers? Yes.
By the way, we have the Adrian High School marching band coming down at 11 o'clock, march down the street, play on the stage for about 45 minutes, followed by a couple of other acts. Then we have the orchestra coming at 1 o'clock. And we just confirmed a couple of days ago, Lady Blues will be there. So we got some great talent coming from our local high school. So
Love it. All right. Any other public comment?
I was just gonna reference the Comstock event, like the mayor mentioned it. So the city is heavily involved in that. It is a city event. Jim obviously started it back when he was mayor, and luckily for us, continued to organize it. I definitely think it should be a committee in the future because it's the amount of work that he takes on is insane. And like I said, there's a huge amount of fundraising that he does all by himself. So whenever this group or whatever committee is ready to take that on, I think, getting with him, I mean, we start talking about trees in like June. It's always the running joke at the city, that Christmas never ends. But
That was April. I think he started talking in
yeah.
April. Yeah.
So, getting with him and really finding out, who his key sponsors are every year, what his process is, everything that goes into it. Because on the city's end, we know what our roles are. I know everything that I do. And it also is a First Friday night, right? So that we have the holiday parade that the city runs. We have First Fridays that I do. We have the tree park. So it's just this big, wheel of stuff that's going on, and it all comes together and it works great. But it is a lot that he does.
Because even the event that night down at the Christmas tree lighting, he does all of that himself. Gets the stage lined up, he literally does that part of that event by himself.
Keep it on the agenda and continue to work towards committee formation on that as well, just like Ton of Gun, some of the other things we were talking about today. And again, it's the challenge, right? With some of these organizations, getting committees together, getting people that are outside the board wanting to help and the like. So it'll just be a constant for us to continue to push toward. I was just asking Jay here, no, any other comments, public comments? Or move on? All right. I just asked Jay when he started and it was May 15th. So here we are, 5 months. I will say that he's doing a tremendous job from my viewpoint. You know, you don't have he reports to me, but he's at City Hall and you have to be a real self-motivator to continue to, keep yourself working at full pace. So the amount of training, the amount of work he's doing and the amount of relationships he's building in Lansing right now that you guys will hear about. There's a number of initiatives he has going right now that we're not bringing to the front because it's not ready. They're not ready to be discussed. But I do want to assure you as chair, he's doing a tremendous job. And I think he's an asset to the city as well, as it works. And I think that's what the partnership's all about. Any other board member comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Couple things. One, the downtown fall decorations, I know that's going to come up at some point, but looking forward to hearing when that'll be scheduled and if that's going to happen. Also wanted to comment on Jay's work on the Adrian City Market. I've been to at least half of those markets and Jay's done a wonderful job at being the host and facilitator of that. And just want to commend Jay for that and also challenge us as a board and a community. We need to continue to work to develop that in order to make it a success. Jay's done everything he can, and I know he'll be doing more next year, but it really does behoove all of us to figure out how we can support that and make it a success, a strong, high trafficked, high energy event. And we have a lot of work to do in order to make that continue, but I just did want to thank Jay for his work there. Taste of Lenawee coming up the 7th of October. Appreciate any support on that. That funds our Launch Lenawee program and other community events that we support. And finally, in terms of succession, I just wanted to thank this board for putting up with me for the past few years. I'm well past my prime and looking forward to continuing to be active with the Main Street Board, but not in a position of a board member. So next meeting will be my last meeting. And again, I can't tell you for the newer members, the difference between how the leadership of this board has been in the past few years versus what it was like before that. It's always been a great group of people who've worked hard, but it's never been as an effective board as what we have now. And I can't tell you how proud I am to have been a part of this and Mary and I will continue to be a part of this into the future. But next meeting will be my last. And I am working on a number of prospects who will be applying for a position.
Excellent. We will celebrate your next meeting.
Don't.
Yes, we will. We're going to stop it. All right, you can see all the upcoming meetings and events. Is there any other board comments for today's meeting? Yes, Jerry.
The downtown decorating is scheduled for Sunday, the 25th of September, 10 in the morning. We're with the street lamp project, we're focusing on the entry point and the 4 corners only, so we won't be doing any of the individual pool. So we have the plan and then so it should be not very long, maybe an hour and a half time, and I'm using the Facebook group that I'm using for to try to help us, but please encourage that to join us that day. And I just want to clarify something. Michelle, you said someone deliberately hit you with their vehicle. So I'm sorry. I think as a board, we have to sort of acknowledge the position that we have been putting you in. And I think that's really difficult. And I can't imagine that situation. So I don't know, we need to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And I'm fine, by the way. He wasn't going fast enough to hurt me. The reason I was in front of him was to make sure that he didn't hit anyone and then he hit me. So I was glad that I was there, but you just, every now and then you get somebody that's just, yeah, difficult to get through.
That's more than 10. That's crazy.
I hope he wasn't rushed.
I mean, I could have pressed charges. I ended up opting not to because he was, he was around 80 and he clearly was just angry. He had a different view of.
I wasn't driving.
Wasn't bad.
He had a different view of the events that happened, even though there was an entire street full of people that saw it. It was clear that he wasn't being rational. So rather than waste the time on that, we just banned him and moved on.
I say that out of every of that, we don't have a criminal arrest. So. That is unfortunate. You should not have to deal with that. That is not much that come to an event quit to defend themselves. And so I would commend you for the way you handled it, the forethought you put into it. I would hope that it's the last that you do. I commend the way. Very nice.
Other board comments?
I just wanted to add that for the upcoming meetings and events on October 1st, we have the Greg Adams Erase the Stigma 5K.
Missed it. Thank you. October 1st, is that right, Devaney?
If you want to come cheer me on as I stumble my way across the finish line, I'm brave enough that I'm going to give it a try. So
Repeat that, October 1st, and let's set start at 9 a.m.
Oh, they've been announcing it. I can't remember. 10, I think. But it's at the Four Corners this year. It's in a different location. It is starting and ending at the Four Corners this year.
That's what, 700, 800 people?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's big. Thank you, Devaney. Any other board member comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. With your support. Thanks for letting us out. Shoot. Thought we were stuck here all day. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.